Welcome, everybody. Vincent, Patrick, and everybody else. Good to see y'all. We were discussing the appearance and identity of key characters in the scriptures. All right, let me hear your thoughts and comments. Can y'all hear me? Somebody give me a yes.
Yes,
All right, excellent.
it's just a lot. We
Yeah, I know it was
can't
heavy.
see where to start.
All right, before we go, let me welcome David. David has joined us there. Welcome, David. If you could put the country you're dialing in from next to your name and just say one or two words to everybody if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thanks, Douglas. I'm dialing in from Lome, Togo.
All right. Welcome. Welcome. Good to have you. All right. Comments, questions about what we just talked about. If you have a comment or a question, just put a C or a Q in the chat or raise your hand using the reactions at the bottom of your screen.
I had one question. It's in the meat of everything. You were talking about Moses, that example, Leviticus 13:13. And it said that if the whole body was leprous or white, then they were clean. And that didn't make sense to me because that was how they were. Leprosy was the description of being impure and unclean.
Mm-hmm.
So it looked like they would have been totally unclean if they were all white instead of. So I'm just wondering if that is one of those deceptive pens to focus on whiteness as clean and pure. Because I mean, their whole description, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, if the whole body is white, then you clean.
Mm. Okay. Let me share my screen and explain that with the rest of this, with some of the rest of that scripture. So I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. So this is a chapter 13, and they were being given the law concerning leprosy. And says here in verse 2, when a man has on the skin of his body a swelling, a scab, or a bright spot, and it becomes on the skin of his body like a leprous sore, then he shall be brought to Aaron the priest or to one of his sons the priests. So we can read the rest of this, but I noticed when I was reading this that, you know, if you had like a small part of your body, of your skin, like a scab or a bright spot, generally you are leprous. You are not well. But then when the rest of all your body became whitish, you are okay. That is what you'll find if you read through this verses here in chapter 13. For example, but if the bright spot is white, so now they're talking about just the spot. In other parts, they'll talk about the scab. If the bright spot is white on the skin of his body and does not appear to be deeper than the skin, and its hair has not turned white, then the priest shall isolate the one who has the sore. 7 days. That means that person who has the spots is not okay. They're still leprous, so they have to go into quarantine, right? Here they talk about the scab, right? If the scab should at all spread over the skin after he has been seen by the priest for his cleaning, he shall be seen by the priest again. And if the priest sees that the scab has indeed spread on the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is leprosy. So the only time that they were really okay was if that spot or that scab has disappeared and your skin is black or brown again, because they're talking to the Israelites, or if the entire skin has turned white. That's what the scriptures say.
And then the other, with that, when it talked about Miriam, and her skin turned white, from my understanding, scripture, because she was disobedient, and she was put outside the camp for 7 days. And so, and then she was considered unclean. So after 7 days, she wasn't unclean anymore. She went back into the camp. So was her skin still white, or was she turned back? You know, because it also, it gives the example. First, it gives the example to Moses. And it said, you know, his skin turned leprosy, as white as snow. And then you gave the descriptions about pale also. So all those things, and then it gives these other descriptions. And I understand what you're saying about, okay, it's sore and you don't have leprosy anymore, but the color of the skin. So that's what's throwing me. So either they are still disobedient, they just don't have the sore or the redness, which means infection. They don't have that, but they still, I don't know, they're not normal again. I mean, they're not, if they're black and brown people, you know, and the skin is still white, it's not making, see what I'm saying? It's not making any sense. I understand, yeah, the way you explain that, and that makes sense. You don't have the oozing of leprosy. And also, I think that's where the confusion comes about, where in the New Testament, you have the lepers who have to declare that they're leopard, and their skin is so diseased because of uncleanness that they're losing their limbs. But this is talking about something different to me, the spiritual aspect of disobedience and you speaking words against the mouth of the Most High mouthpiece. And that kind of spiritual disobedience, which again has to do with sound and all these other things that we learn about the light. Anyway, that, you know, thank you, but yeah,
it's a good
that's
question.
That's why
it's a good question.
Understand it.
Yeah, it's a good question. And if you go back to Numbers chapter 12, that's where the story of Miriam turning leprous is. Farther down, you will see that Aaron pleaded with the Most High, and he asked the Most High, he was asking the Most High to take away the leprosy from her. And he was negotiating, basically. And when he was negotiating, you know, he said, please do not let her, this is verse 12 of chapter 12 of Numbers, please do not let her be as one dead, whose flesh is half consumed when he comes out of his mother's womb. And so it goes on to say, and even Moses cried out to the Most High, please heal her, O Most High, I pray. And the Most High said to Moses, if her father had but spit in her face, would she not be shamed for 7 days? So eventually, you know, she was shut out of the camp for 7 days. She was quarantined for 7 days. Now, of course, we can, you know, split the hairs and figure out exactly, you know, who was leprous and who was not. But I know we get the main point here was that the original skin color was black or brown. And that is the main thing that we're presenting here. It's indisputable because the information is in the scriptures and it's consistent. So, you know, that's the main point over here. Let me go. Yeah, let me go to Mama Royal Daughter, then we'll get to Patrick. Mama Royal Daughter, go ahead.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is that you can't see leprosy on somebody that's white. So if the skin color is a indication of the change of the skin color, they have to be black. You can they have to check for the other symptoms of leprosy on white people, but you can't tell from the skin color change with white people because it's the same color. But you have to be black in order for the skin to change. And that's the big difference. You have to see the other symptoms of leprosy on white people, but not the skin change because their skin is the same color. This is a big topic. You did an amazing job. I got to say, you did an amazing job. You covered all the bases. And the other thing, when remember when Noah was born, how his father was surprised and he said he looked like an angel, but he was perturbed. He was not happy because he thought that he looked like a fallen angel. So, that again goes to, the difference between the angels as well. Comes back to the pineal, because that is where melanin is the pineal gland is such an amazing organ, because in the day it produces melanin and in the night it produces melatonin. And melatonin is responsible for your subconscious thoughts and your conscious thoughts. In other words, it's the connection with the Most High. That's where we get all our dreams. And melatonin is produced in the darkness. That's why the doctors will tell you keep your bedroom dark, because if you keep your bedroom light, it tricks the mind into thinking it's still daylight. And melatonin is produced at night, but melanin is produced during the day. So even in the creation, the Most High has set set things so unique, because even now he talks about the heating up of the sun and the signs in the moon, and all of that has to do with regulating your pineal. So I always talk about Jacob, and when he saw the face of the Most High, he named the place Pineal, because that is what the face of the Most High means. Pineal means the face of we say God. And then the thought goes back to Cain, because he got this mark in his forehead where the pineal gland is, and he could no longer seek the face of God. So there was a disconnection between him, and so there was a deactivation of his pineal. He could not produce melanin. And we've seen that over and over and over, that there are people, and I'm talking about melanated people, who stop producing melanin. We have people like the albinos, they produce melanin, but very, very little. And then we have people who cannot produce melanin at all. And we have Black people who don't produce enough for the entire body. And so we see, you know, patches of white on their skin, patches of black. I have a friend, and when she comes to the Caribbean, her skin gets darker. The white patches like almost seem like they're going away. But when she goes back to the US, the white patches get bigger. So, you know, it's an amazing thing that the Most High has we are fearfully and wonderfully made, you know, and when we look at it, you know, even the scientists say that melanin is the God component, is the connection to God. It's a very deep connection to God. And it throughout the Bible, we see words like Cush, like, you know, these names that they all mean, if the Bible was in its original language, most of these words would mean black. Most of these words that they described, you know, are people, Ethiopian, Cush, all of these words literally mean black. Niger, all these things. So we see a lot of connection between the black skin and the Bible. People think that it's not even mentioned. Even with David, when David goes to fight Goliath, they start describing David, and in the middle of the fight with Goliath, they say he's ruddy, you know. So it's like the Bible wants you to know. People think that there's no mention of black people in the Bible, but if you read the Bible properly, you know, you will see that it's all over the Bible. Black people are all over the Bible. The other thing that you mentioned, Daniel, and you know, we know the story about Daniel in the lion's den, and David fought the lion and the bear, and there's only one continent in this world that you find all these animals. And Samson fought the lion. Samson, you know, set the fox's tail on fire. There's only one place, there's only one continent in the world that you find all these animals, and they were used to fighting these animals. You know, as a matter of fact, even now there are tribes in Africa that you if you want to be the king or the leader, you have to kill a lion. You have to fight a lion. I recently saw a documentary with a 12-year-old boy that a lion attacked him and he fought the lion. You know, a 12-year-old boy, and like he became huge in his village because that's such an achievement. But there's only one place on earth where you find these. And you know, even we listen about the story of Spartacus and all these in Europe. When the tribes were distributed in Europe, they literally put them in the lions den to fight lions, because they knew that we were the only people who had those abilities to fight and beat a lion. We were the only people. So when we see those stories of these Spartacus and all these into Europe, remember that the 10 tribes were scattered into Europe. Paul was asked to go to preach into Europe because the 10 tribes were scattered there. And so they knew the history. They knew the Old Testament. They knew the promise of that the Most High said that he would send the Messiah. And so they knew when he preached that, the people, because they still held their tradition, they would know that the Messiah had come. And that's the whole thing about the gospel. They would know that the Messiah had come. But when they went into these into Europe, they literally put our people in the dens to fight lions, and they did it for sport. They used to sit back and watch and enjoy it. So that story of Daniel in the lion's den, it wasn't a one-time thing for our people. but we were the people who did that. And get that.
Thank you. Yeah, I could relate to that. I have a friend, he lives in Canada right now. And when I lived there with him, you know, one time we had gone out in the outdoors and he was putting on shorts, not long pants or trousers. And he had a huge scar on his thigh. And when I asked him, you know, what happened, he explained to me that, you know, he was fighting off a lion. I thought I was in a movie, you know, but the evidence was right there. So for those of us who've come across people with such encounters, you know, it's a real thing and it still happens. But the point there, I like what you've talked about, is that the land is part of your identity. The land of your heritage, your origins, is part of your identity. You know, I can move to the States and I can live here, but that don't make me and my roots American. You know, it doesn't happen. Patrick, go ahead.
Yummy, everybody. Yeah, very difficult topic that you have here, and I'm going to, you know, my job is as a Levite. It's really to shake things up a little bit, and sometimes research is too much information is very difficult to estimate through the information. You're right, Royal, when you talk about the melanin. The melanin is the gold, and the melanin is the equivalence of the carbon that we have in our body, and that is the gold that is within us. And when we change hemispheres, or maybe coming from a southern hemisphere coming into a northern hemisphere, the sun is not as bright as what the southern hemisphere is. That's why you see the topography of Africa, where you have the southern Africans have good sun, as well as the equatorial Congo, Kenya, Sudan. They have the most sun, and then if you go up into the West Africa, that's where mostly it is there. But it's of significance. You have to point out that when COVID came, we actually said that the virus is killed by the sun. We actually said the virus is killed by the sun. If you go sit in the sun, viruses don't like the sun, the heat. And that was the main thing. But what were they telling you? Stay inside. They were telling you to stay inside. The sun is too hot. It was not talking about us. And that's why you go back to what you presented. The scriptures as written were us. We are the main actors, but they deviated that scripture and made it for them. So they changed a lot of the things in there. But the main actor were us. We just couldn't fathom that we are the main actors in the scriptures. So now that we are finding out, we are seeing exactly what was said. And the first warning that was given to us, the first warning by Tata Nzambe was, we were never meant to mix. That bloodline was never meant to mix with us. And we did not listen. Once we started to intermingle, then it came out. This is the result of that intermingling. We were told never to mix. Now, let's go back to your presentation on the creation. I did a lot of research here, and it took me on a dark path of research. Now, you mentioned in there, and I did mention this last time, and I said, let us create man in our own image. Which image was there other than the one that they wanted to create? These are questions you should ask yourself. If you're an anthropologist, a historian, you shouldn't end right there. You shouldn't end right there. You should go back beyond the question that was asked. Is let us create man in our own image. Us is a plural word. If you go into the Hebrew word, it says Elohim. Elohim is a plural word. Elohim means the God, that God. So what they're essentially saying, I am not, bear with me here, I'm not contradicting anything, but I want you to open your mind a little bit and say, which man was being created here? Okay, was it us or it was another one that we don't know? Was it us that they're talking about? Because remember, now I have to go to resources. I have to go to, let me go to Credo Mutua. Huh? Credo Mutua said they came the normal, which are the, he called them the normal, that came from extraterrestrial. Terrestrial is it's just another territory, not the thing that you're talking about, like it's in outer space or anything. Extra territory, out of this realm. They came the normal, and they came here. When we were here before, we had so many tremendous powers that we could do everything. We could move mountains with mind. But they promised us that we will be better than what we are. So out of us, they made us into something else. And out of there were people coming out of this place, coming out as a woman, and here was coming out a man. And I always question this question. This is the question I want you to ask. If they came here, they found a being already here. There was already a being here. That's the question you should ask. There was a creator, and then there was a sub-creator who created another being that counted us. That's the part that you really need to be careful, because remember who's writing these scriptures. It's not Nzambi writing them. It's somebody who has now taken Nzambi's word and actually now given it a different misinterpretation. So there's a different being that was created on top of us. And then we now think we are them. We were the ones who were created in that manner. That's where you need to be extra careful in understanding that part. There was back then when we were doing our research, there was I don't know if it's still up because they took a lot of the videos down. It was an interview with La Cera. They spelled it as in Lacerta. They called it the interview of La Cera. Now, when we first heard this interview, this is way back, everybody thought it was a computer-generated interview. Everybody thought it was a computer-generated interview. But no, this was actually a good interview of an extraterritorial person that gave an account, a history account of how the earth became to be where we are right now. So you really have to use that. I don't like using the word discernment, but I need you to go back to the Hebrew Bible or the Geneva Bible and then understand exactly the point of creation, of how this creation came to be. What the people can never explain is they that came were also created by the Creator. And they don't mention him that much. They don't mention him, but they mention themselves as creators. So that is why I'm saying it's controversial in this part. I didn't finish that research because it kept on going and going, and you end up in that in a way getting lost. So you need to kind of bring it back a little bit and combine all the researches that you have and then kind of come to a conclusion based on that. But we are the people that they're talking about, and we need to understand that when you talk about leprosy, it was something which was discovered, which was discussed as something which was, how can I say, it was filthy, like you said, Mama Emma. It was something which we didn't like. And we did something wrong with it because leprosy, we started seeing albinos in the same light. We discarded albinos in the same light. And we said that skin is not something is wrong with that. That is not us. So that process made us kind of like inferior, but we had our own people that intermingled with this new generation, the Atlanteans, as you call them, that came up with this Caucasian mix that you have. And now that's where most of this history, but it's a lot of information. Like I said, it's not something that you can put in a nutshell, but information that you presented just vindicates that we are the main actors and players in that scripture. Together.
Wow, thank you, Elder Patrick. I appreciate that. You know, I like people who push the envelope, who go beyond the normal, because if we didn't dare look at what we were used to being told or asked about, we wouldn't be in this awakening. We wouldn't be in this awakening. You know, it's people like you who inspire us to find the truth, you know. So great input there. Appreciate that, you know. Oh boy, yeah, I need to go read up a little bit more on Credo Mutua. And that other Lacerta, interview of Lacerta, definitely. All right, let me go to Vincent and then we'll go back to Mama daughter. Hey, Vincent, good to have you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Happy Sabbath, everyone. I'll just make 2-3 comments. Let me just start off with, I like what Brother Patrick said. Let me start off with the issue of the leprosy itself. I tend to think when you examine the scriptures, especially the book of the laws, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, and where the leprosy is mentioned and the laws around it, it is the issue of the uncleanness. Now we need to think about uncleanness. What does it mean to be unclean? Okay, because are we just talking, and I think our daughter mentioned, it's not just physical uncleanness, there's a spiritual element to it. And where the spiritual element comes is that when we're talking about the leprosy, and because the question began off with whereby what happens when it's all white, it's all good. All right, when it's all white, it's all good. But if it's part white, then it's not good. I think that's where the question began. In the sense, when the priest examines and he finds that there's a scab or there's a section that is white and the rest of the skin is black, that's leprosy. That's not okay. But if everything is white, then everything is good. So now the everything being white, everything being good goes back to now the issue that at hand. In this sense, number one, I can't remember who it is mentioned about the albinos, okay? That is an aspect of that. You actually have blacks who are albinos, which is okay. Now, the problem comes in the implication of the leprosy. The problem is what it implies. It implies contamination, and I'll give you 3 different examples of why it comes in, and why all white is good, all black is good, mix is not good. Everybody knows the parable of the wine and the wineskins. New wine, patching it up, all right? Now, you need to also to think in that concept. Secondly, I don't need to go into that one. Everybody knows that one. You cannot have a wineskin with old and new. You go to Revelation, what does the Most High say? He says, you cannot be cold or hot. You've got to be one of the two. It's got to be one of the two. It's an issue of purity. It cannot be mixed. This is the whole issue with the leprosy. That's why when it is all white, when you're an albino, it is okay. But when you're leprous, then it means there is an infection you're no longer having purity. I'll leave that one to sink in. Secondly, okay, that was my first point. My second point now, somebody mentioned, I think it was my daughter, she mentioned when she was talking about the angel, talking about Noah in the book of Enoch. If you read carefully, I need you to look at it. It says that the Noah's father, or Methuselah, I can't remember the Methuselah, he said, the complaint was that Noah looks like a children of the sons of the gods, not, like the hybrid offspring. Not that he looked, because if you look at it carefully, the hybrids are the ones that were turning white, not the sons that were, thank you, Lamech, not the sons of God. Those were not white. Okay, it was the hybrid, the offspring that was coming out as white. Okay, now obviously we've dealt with this matter before, implying what? The offspring is a mixture, because you're not talking about just the physical as what we read before when you're reading about the angel who appeared to Abraham and he looked like Isaac and Jacob, looked like Jacob, and which means his appearance was black or like a burnt bronze or whatever. Because you can imagine if these guys were black, Abraham and his entire cohort and lineage were black, and an angel appears to them who is white, okay? Don't you think they'll all run away? I know in Africa, everybody ran away when the white man came. Some used to call him the evil spirit or a ghost. It's so interesting. In Africa, we looked at the white man as an evil spirit, as opposed to the movies that we see depicting as an evil spirit being black. You get? So in that perspective, when you think about that, then it implies that's why that Abraham could be able to identify him with what the angel was saying, and that's why the angel would say, I've been with you since you were youth. So why didn't Abraham run away all that time? The guy looked like him, or the person looked like him. And Paul himself confirms it. He says, when he says that, don't you know some have welcomed angels? All right, because how would you welcome the angel unless the angel looked like you? You didn't welcome him knowing that this is not an angel. And I'll take you to the story of Gideon when he was fighting, all right, when he was being called out to go lead the children of Israel out of their captivity in the book of Judges. I'll take you to when the angel appeared to Mary, okay, to declare. She did not say, hey, you white guy, you're looking very strange, He said, how can you be like a man that you're talking to me? She could see that he looks in essence like human being, okay? So there's that element. So that takes that aspect of what now she was saying when there was something off, that now they'll begin saying there's something wrong with Noah. Now my third point, Brother Patrick has brought out a very, 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 very important thing that we need to think about. And I'll also suggest you go back to the Bible and read some of the key sentences or scriptures in the original. You've got translations now, right now. If you go back to the 10 Commandments, and the keyword, one of the key elements he brought out was Elohim. The word Elohim. The word Elohim is not God. Okay? If you go back to blah, blah, blah. It says...
We missed you, Vincent. We didn't hear you. Said if you go back to what? You were on mute there. We didn't hear you. Repeat.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, I think my network is actually unstable. I'm saying when you go back to the 10 Commandments, the first commandment, which says, I am the Lord your God, and you shall have no other gods before me. Okay? What the original translations actually say, Yahuwah your Elohim, and you shall have no other Elohim before me. You shall have no other Elohim before me. I am Yahuwah your Elohim, and you shall have no other Elohim before me. Now we've been told always. So there's this concept now that Patrick is bringing, which is that again itself a delicate and an issue that People need to go and read slowly and carefully, because he's brought about the creation aspect and the aspect of let us make man in our image. So as he said, it's a good question. So if he's saying in our image, so man had been made in which image beforehand? Because if you're saying now, let us make this cup after this model, so there must have been another model for you to compare the models with. So that's just food for thought. That's my 2 cents. Thank you. Ingeta.
Wow, thank you. Man, this is getting deep. I'm just taking notes. Mama Royal Daughter, go ahead.
You know, even the scientists would tell you now that everything came out of Africa. Out of Africa. So if it came out of Africa, then the people were black. The language, the first language is an African language. And we see throughout the scriptures these customs that they speak about, these customs and ways of life and patterns of behavior. The only place you find that still is in Africa. These people still practice those customs that were in the Bible. The only people that still do that, even those that were taken out of the land, we still see semblances of the culture of the scriptures in people that were taken out of the land and separated from their people. And that's impossible if these people were not the people. There's no way. I mean, the people that retain the culture of the Bible in general, not just little patches here, little patches there, in general, are the people of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. So, you know, if the scientists are saying that this is where life began, this is where everything began, I don't know why people still want to argue, you know, with the language being an African language. But, you know, the African culture and the African continent has been so demonized that, you know, even in the awakening, when we spiritually wake up and we have been taught, we have been indoctrinated that, oh, everything from Africa is bad. And so automatically we reject anything that is African, you know? So, but that being said, the African is the only person, the African people are the only people who can make any race in the world, create any race in the world. You know, we've seen it so many times that people have twins, one is white, one is black. We've seen people, African women, African couples giving birth to children that are Caucasian. But it can't happen the other way. Demelanated people cannot make melanated children. So, you know, it's just a matter of critical thinking, you know, because there's been so many lies mixed in with the truth that when you come to think about it, you really, really, really have to use critical thinking and follow it back all the way from the beginning. You know, in Genesis 12, it talks about a woman that's clothed in the sun. How does the sun clothe you? You know, you get darker. I get darker when I'm in the Caribbean. I get lighter when I'm in the US. So the sun clothes you, and the Bible was very specific. Why would the Bible say clothed by the sun? It wants you to know that this is a Black woman, because if you have melanin in your body, you get darker. You know, if you are demelanated, it doesn't happen that way. They, you know, like if Caucasian people stay in the sun, they'll get sunburned. You know, so but we get darker. The sun activates the production of melanin, so we produce more or less as the need be. You know, and one of the things that's important with that is that the melanin, our body takes the sun, the melanin, and converts it to vitamin D. And vitamin D is very essential to help your body, because vitamin C helps build your immunity, but your body doesn't retain it. It'll go right through you. Vitamin D helps your body to retain vitamin C. So it helps to build your immunity. Now, in this whole COVID experience, a lot of the doctors were saying that most of the people died because they had low vitamin D. Most of the people were getting sick and dying because they had low vitamin D. They found that in most of the people, the patients that died, low vitamin D. And we were told, don't go out in the sun, stay inside. You know, so the sun activates our immunity system. So it's like, you know, we were created to literally be one with nature. The trees filter the air, the sun energizes us. The moon connects us with the Most High, because that's where your circadian rhythm and the melatonin at night, and you have dreams and you connect with the Most High, because, you know, a dream is a subconscious most of us have dreams, and we understand that dreams are so important that most of the times that's when we connect with the Most High. You know, so we are literally Black skin. The melanin is literally the connection to the Most High, and we are made to be at one with nature, the sun, the moon, everything around us. We connect with them, and that's our healing. That's how we heal. That's how we thrive. That's how we grow. But that's how we connect with the Most High as well. And get that.
Oh, thank you, Mama Daughter. Thank you so much. You know, Mama Emma, I'd seen your hand up. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yes, to kind of go back to the beginning, as you went through that, and Eden, and once again, the definition was pleasure. So in Genesis 1, where the Most High spoke creation. Okay, I don't want to say the Most High. The names that we are coming to understand. When Sanini Nanini Tatan Zame spoke creation, the first thing he said was, "Let there be light," because the condition of the earth was covered in darkness. It said void, okay? And it wasn't even void. I think there's a word that says in the modern Hebrew, vohu vahu, or something like that. But anyway, it just means that you couldn't see what he had created. Again, because this is what I've been saying, is like what we've learned as we keep digging and got bits and pieces of it while we were in the religions or outside of religions, or just being the creation that God had made, that Tata and Sami had made. So anyway, what I'm getting to is that the war in heaven and the enemy falling like lightning. Okay, like I said, we didn't come to understand that. I didn't come to understand until later on when I started studying it on my own, and then I was reading in Isaiah, and it's, you know, I saw Satan fall like lightning, and even Satan is not the name of the individual. I can't remember what it is. I just saw it a few minutes ago. But anyway, fall like lightning. And I can remember also during that time, just in regular life, they had these modern rock bands talking about, they had the emblem of lightning and all those kinds of things. So the enemy was at work, and he was at work at the very beginning. And see, this is the things a lot of us still can't, because we just kind of skip over. Like Nick said, we have to, Patrick said, we have to go back and really dig a little deeper so that we can understand again exactly who we are and what the Most High expects of us. And again, it doesn't have how the enemy has used the Bible, the Biblo, the books that they have mistranslated to control what we hear and how we hear it. And so we go forward a few steps. It's like, oh, I know who I am. And then we backtrack. It's like, okay, no, I'm this person. It's like we were already made in his image, and he gave us a command. He gave us instructions. He says, dominate. I put you here to finish what I started. The earth was attacked by the enemy, and he destroyed my creation. And so he put himself there to receive you when I manifested you in the garden with his lies. Okay, so understanding that, again, it's untangling. You know, they came up with a song, you know, and made us sing. We were tied up and tangled up, and you know who, and and we're untangling ourselves because really we weren't. We just believe that. You got to stop believing that. We are still who he made us. The more melanin you are, the more you are in the image of the Most High. Okay. For me, what I have learned is that, because like I said in my personal testimony, the relatives that I seen in my growing up were all melanated, brown, Sardis and Jasper Stone. Those are the ones that I was raised around. The mixture came in. I wasn't raised around that group of people. So it said you kind of, what's inside of you gravitates to what you see and what you hear. And I never heard them put me down based on their words. But there was this kind of a drawback thing, sort of like with Noah, it's like this light that's emanating from you as a child, and they don't understand. Again, those English words, white and black, it's light and darkness, and we emit light all the time, and we emit it even more when we believe that we are the creators, the original creators' children. Yeah, there's a mixture, but he's going to take care of that. He tells us in Hosea, I will clean your blood. And it was amazing to me when I came across that scriptures, like, oh, and I can remember also in my own personal life when I was working amongst the white supremacists, but I was going to a Christian church, positive thinkers who doted on their melanin situation, but also on their degrees, quote unquote, the education. But anyway, in that, I was seeking some information about my health. And this man told me, said, your blood is unclean. But he didn't tell me anything other than that. And it's like, okay, I don't know what that means. So I just kept looking. But anyway, now I'm understanding what he's saying. And it has to do with, again, I'm made in that image, like Nick Patrick was saying, because of the mixture that happened with my ancestors. Again, that word ancestor. We see, and I've been doing a word study on that too, ancestor and incest. What happened? Incest is a mixture across what the Most High told us not to do. Do not mix with them. And that mixture that happened in my bloodline was not by consent. You know, this was just like in the scripture, he said, they lusted after and took. And so it manifested in the earth realm, and it's still manifesting in the earth realm. But now they're trying to do it the opposite, because they come to understand, because of what we've been saying, and what our forefathers and mothers have been saying about melanin. I don't know if all of you all have heard Dr. Welsing's study, and then also Dr. Joy. I always have a hard time with her last name. Dr. Joy DeGury, and their work that they did, and I mean, it just overlaps, and it's still overlapping. So again, what we have to understand, especially what Dr. Welsing said, is that we cannot knowingly now continue to mix with non-melanated people. And this is the thing, the foundation again is in Genesis 1. Light. We are light beings. He said, you are children of the light, not of darkness. And the people that he sent were children of light, not of darkness. And they display that. And you know, our hero now is Toko. You know, I mean, it's like what they did to that man. And again, listen to that story again. And they've done the same thing to us. But because of the trauma that was passed down, some of our people didn't make it. And again, because I don't think Sanini, Nanini, and Tatanzemi wanted them to continue to be traumatized or beaten. You know, their spirit still remains. The flesh, you see, we put too much emphasis on the flesh. And that's what the enemy has learned is the way to keep us, quote unquote, cursing ourselves. We can't keep denying who we are and what the Most High is going to do. And I just praise him for that. And it's like so much confirmation about light. He gave me that. I mean, when I began to seek him on my own and to seek his face and all those things in the scriptures that he showed me, without full understanding at that point, but enough light on the path to keep building me up, to get me to now, and to get me to understand my little particular part in the building up of his body in these last days is to exhort with all long suffering. Okay, and the long suffering doesn't have anything to do with somebody beating up on me, but it's the struggle against the things that has damaged my spirit and people around me. And so again, this is so good, and and it was a lot of information, But the key thing is what you're saying is we are the children of the Creator, Most High, Tatanzami, Sanini Nanini, Olamere, you know, all the names of the languages of his people that are still on Azania Al-Kabalan. So praise the Most High as I'm learning some more of those words and trying to use them correctly with understanding, understanding, and overstanding. And yeah, this is so good. Thank you, Patrick. You know, but I would request of you, just don't keep sending us back to do more study. Just help us where we are and keep giving us some more things, because we're doing that. We're definitely going back for more study, but you're here to well, I guess to do exactly what you're doing, but I just want the answer. Yeah, so praise the Most High. Thank you. This is so good. Oh, and the one thing too, I'll save that for later. In Getza.
All right, thank you, Mama Emma. Wow. Okay. Mamara daughter, I'm gonna make a comment and then I'll pass it to you, and hopefully you can close for us after you make your comment. We're almost coming up at that time. Welcome, Brother Nick. Welcome, Mama Shelley. I had not acknowledged you. Brother Naibu, I see you in there. So the comment I want to make is this. Do y'all notice that we grew up inundated with an image of a white creator, a white Jesus Christ, white biblical characters, whether it's Moses? Y'all remember the 10 Commandments movie? They're still watching that. Remember the Jesus movie? They're still watching that, right? When you go around the world, you find, like in Rome or in these churches that are recently have just been burning down, you know, you find they have statues of all these white biblical characters or scriptural characters. You know, there's a church of Notre Dame in France that went down a few years back, maybe not a few, but 10 years ago. They have a lot of statues in there. They have a copy of it in Canada, in Montreal. Same thing. So you got to ask yourself, why is it that there's been such a consistency to whitewash what the scriptures doesn't describe as white? You know, today, yes, I gave you an overload of that information, but I wanted to put it out there so that anybody who watches this, I realized we had never discussed it. You know, we touch a little bit here and there, but we'd never like comprehensively addressed it. But I wanted you all to see that even when people start telling you about Egyptians or Egypt as a country, everybody knows that's in Africa. But there's an effort to try and whitewash it, despite the archaeology, despite the mummies they pull out, the pharaohs they pull out, they check their DNA. You know, that has been like one area they really want to dominate and control the narrative on. If they can brand the nation of Egypt and the people of Egypt in antiquity as something else other than black, they think they'll have the upper hand. No, the scriptures have it. You know, they are the ones who came to us with the scriptures telling us they know better. Now we are telling them, read the scriptures that you brought to us. You know, look at the nation of Israel. You hear people describing it as a land. Do you know there are very few places in the scripture where you find the phrase land of Israel? Israel is a nation of people, and they live and have been living according to the way the Most High said in the promised land. That is the name of their land. The name of their land is not Israel, it's the promised land. Some people call part of it Canaan. The scriptures call it correctly also as Canaan. But the big point here, I hope everybody got, is that the evidence is in the scriptures. And hopefully, you know, if it is the will of the Most High, we'll have another discussion sometime on the difference between the scriptures and the Bible. I don't know if you never noticed, but the word Bible actually is outside the Bible. But most times the word scriptures is in the Bible. So we need to start differentiating that. You know, if people want to reference the Bible, that's fine. They can reference, we know what they're talking about. But we don't have anything called the Bible in the scriptures. All right, Mama Royodore, go ahead and then close us out in prayer.
You know, the one thing the scripture says that we know in part and we testify in part. And so, you know, the people in the West have, you know, because of how we live, where we live, we are some of the most, we have been more exposed. I don't want to say educated because that's neither here nor there. It depends on the education, but we have been more exposed to the British or the colonized form of education, what they call formal education. So, you know, and we are some of the most traveled people in the world, and but we were missing so much. And it is only when we connected with the people of the continent who experienced the life and the culture and the things that we turn backwards are the things that have given us the most in education. You know, when we look at Moses, the Most High told him to take a branch and put it in the water, and the water turned sweet. He told Jacob to put a branch in the water, and the cattle got spotted, and stuff like that. Those are the most basic of things. The things that we go back to nature. Those are that's the way our people on the continent operate. So with all that we had here, we were missing that part. And it's an amazing thing when the two parts come together for the scriptures, you know, when the two parts come together and we each bring our piece of the puzzle and we connect them. There is so much that we learn. You know, the scriptures talk about the knowledge that will set us free. And it's amazing as the Most High peels back the layers and we discover all the lies that we have been taught, you know, and we come together as one people. That unity brings so much strength. It brings education, and we're all better off for it because the things that we know we share with our people, and the things that they know is invaluable to us as well, and it makes us whole. You know, like Isaiah said, will you be made whole? You can't be made whole unless you reconnect. You know, because when you reconnect to your bloodline, to your people, you reconnect to the Most High. And that's the huge thing. So as you know, we don't know the whole truth, but as we learn together, as we gather together, the Most High said, where 2 or 3 is gathered, and He is in the midst to bless. And as we gather, to seek the knowledge and the understanding that he wants, this is what he wants from us. And then he will bring that missing piece that we have and just complete us and make us whole. Engeta. Father, we thank you